think about this. If we are bright lights and these lights shine out all around us in every direction from us, how can anything penetrate that or even have a chance to penetrate it, right? So if anybody thinks that, oh, I might get, an entity attachment or something, if you're shining bright, that entity is going to look at you and run the other way. And that's if you even believe in entities. We can bring anything into and we could talk for 3 hours about this one. We can bring anything into our existence, into our body, into our life that we want through our focus.
Today, I am here with Deb Goetz, who is a medical intuitive and medium. She's a spiritual counselor and a quantum healer. Welcome, Deb.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's so wonderful to be a part of this summit with you and to share with you and your audience. So thanks.
Well, I have actually worked with Deb before, so I already know how incredible she is, and I know a little bit about her story. But I would love for you to share with the rest of us, Deb, what you do and how you came into these amazing gifts that you have.
All right, that's a big story. I'll tell you a little bit. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version of it. I've always been a seeker from the time I was very young. I was brought up in religion, and none of it really made sense to me. I was always wondering, how much more is there? This doesn't make sense to me, but I went along with it because I had to, right? So in my 20s, I started making my own choices and started reading the Bible. And in the Bible, it said, Jesus said, the things that he did, we shall also do. Well, when I read that, it rang like a gong in my body. And it's like, oh my gosh, I believe that. Why can we not do what the masters did? So that put me on a journey to figure it all out and talk to the masters, and which, some people might say, well, did you really talk to them? Did you really hear back from them? Well, sometimes it's subtle messages. Sometimes there's signs. Sometimes you run into a class or something to take, right? But I just kept asking and asking and asking. I want to do what you did. I want to love people like you do, and I want to heal people like you do. So I got interested in Reiki. So I took my first and second attunements of Reiki back I was doing that in the late 1980s. And so when I started doing Reiki, I got my attunements and I put my little business card out in a bookstore, and somebody came and, because people would call me and come to my house and I would do Reiki for them. Well, the very first client that I had, a woman, came to my home, and we had her on the Reiki table and the lights were dimmed, and I was doing Reiki and I was so excited. In the middle of it, though, I had this impulse inside of me to talk to her about her husband. I just kind of heard it and knew to say something to her, and in my mind's eye I saw capital T. So I'm thinking, I'm not going to say anything to her. First of all, you don't talk during Reiki. And second of all, at least you didn't back then, you don't talk during Reiki. And I don't know her. I'm not going to dig into her personal life with her. It got to the point where it was pushing so strong out of my chest that I knew that I had to say something to her. So I asked her, are you married? And she said, yes. And I said, well, does your husband's name begin with a T? And she said, no. But she told me the story of how 10 years ago she was married to Tom, and they loved each other very much, but they got in a big blowout fight one night. So he went for a drive to cool down in his car. He never came home. He got killed in a car accident during that little car ride. So here's Tom coming through me, telling her, honey, it's all okay. I love you. I'm in a beautiful place. There's no need for forgiveness. And she's crying and I'm crying. And every time I tell the story, I still get chills. And that was my very first experience with doing Reiki for a client. And I was a medium. And I have to tell you, Kate, I didn't even know what a medium was. I did not know what mediumship was. I just came out of Christianity, So that began even more of my mind expanding and heart expanding journey. And it wasn't until 2014, so I just kept doing Reiki and got sidetracked and started my own business as an interior designer and things like that throughout the years. And now I'm an interior designer for the hearts of humanity, by the way. That's what the guides tell me. So in 2014, I was home alone one night. And I had, by the way, been working with a shaman for about 9 months in 2014. And I just had this impulse one night to start to pray for my friend who was out of town. So I put my book down and I started praying for their safe trip home and other things like that. And all of a sudden, I was shown in my mind's eye 3 vertebrae in the middle of their back with a bulging disc. I knew what that was. I mean, we know what spines look like, right? I didn't study anatomy and physiology or anything, but I was shown this and I thought, okay, I guess I'll just put it back into, I just started manipulating the frequency of it. They weren't there, right? So while trying this, over in the corner, a 10-foot golden angel appeared. I saw her in my mind's eye and I felt her presence so strong. She slowly came over to me and embodied me. And together we finished repairing my friend's spine, and still to this day, their spine is perfectly healthy, no bulging disc. So that ignited the medical intuition portion of the work that I do. Now I've been practicing this for, almost 10 years now. And I now train others in what I do, called the Medical Intuitive Mentoring Program. And then there's a mastery program after that. So the guides say there is such a need, especially right now, for other healers to be out there, medical intuitives, to be able to tune into people's bodies, because it's basically what medical intuition is all about. The ability to tune into someone's body, to hear, feel, know, see in the inner vision what's going on in someone's body, their emotions, and then help them heal it. And so that's what I do.
It's incredible. Now, what's really interesting is that you came from like a decorate, or you're an interior designer. So you came from a completely different background, it has nothing to do with what's going on inside the body. How did you kind of make that connection? That, because I know when you work with people, you talk about what's going on the inside, like as if you were, maybe not as if you were a doctor, but you're using the same terms, how the spine works. Did you have to do any studying to learn how to, what you were seeing, like what that was?
Well, first of all, I've always been interested in health. I've always been a healthy eater. I raised my kids eating really, really healthy. And I've always been intuitive. So even when I was doing interior design, I was using my intuition to help people, I basically help them heal their homes, right? So it was a little bit of a shift to come over to the body, yes. But the guides taught me everything.
That's amazing.
I knew where we have different parts of the spine. We give them names: the cervical spine, the thoracic spine, and the lumbar spine. They just taught me as I was looking at it and working on people. They'd say, okay, that's your cervical spine. And it's right where the cervical spine meets the thoracic spine, or something like that. Or they'll put pressure on some part of my body and say liver. So I knew that I would have to check the liver. So I was taught by the divine everything I needed to know, all the different parts of the brain, how things work, what emotions were attached to which organs and glands, and what the deep-seated issues were. They taught me ancestral or not, or if it was congenital, meaning they were born with it. And then they also work with me and through me on actually correcting the frequency of an illness, pain, or disease, so people get better.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So when are you hearing, like when you say, like they said, this is I don't even remember the words you said, like some part of the spine, like the actual word, did you hear it? Or did you, how do you know what the word is?
Okay, it's a knowing and a hearing. Sometimes I'll see a word like cervical, thoracic. I'll just hear it, but then they'll stamp the word in my mind's eye so I can see it.
So interesting.
Well, and they'll give me words that I never heard before. Like I was working with a client. I mean, it's fascinating. I was working with a client a couple years ago, and they had me go to her bladder, and they showed me the word dysplasia, and it's like, honey, I don't know what dysplasia is, but let's look it up together. So in the session, I picked up my phone and looked up what dysplasia was. And this is how all the sessions work. I just get words, I get information. So dysplasia is actually a precancerous condition. So she was instructed to go and see a physician. So I want to bring a little bit of understanding to the practice of medical intuition also. It's not always waving a magic wand. We all want that to happen, and many times it does actually. But the guides will be very specific on sometimes sending the client to a physician, because you never know what might happen through a doctor visit. The physician might learn something. What if through their illness a cure was called for a disease that they haven't been able to find a cure for? See, we never know the whys, but everything is connected. We're all connected. And so if you have to go see the physician, then you do. But for the most part, we perform some really magical things.
Yeah. And I find probably often people have already been to the physician and it's not working, or they just don't feel like it's like just an appointment and then that's it. They don't feel like they have that connection, that caring. I know many doctors who are very caring. I've had them, but somebody has like, I've got a tight schedule. I've got a lot of people in and out, and I work in a hospital, and it's a different vibe than when you are working with somebody on like the connection you make spiritually. It's not so much of like a time. It's more of a space that you share with them, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing that I thought was interesting is that your experience of the angel just coming into you and working through you. Some people might find that a little scary. Did you have any like trepidation at all, or were you just like, yeah, come on in?
There wasn't even a thought. It was almost a reuniting with a aspect of myself. Because when I felt her, there's no words for describing something that's so lovely, and it felt warm. It felt like home to me. And so when she came, it's like, okay, I don't even remember what I thought, but it was really cool. And it was like she just descended and overlaid me and then locked in with my frequency. And I can't help but think that she was just an aspect of me. And now in the program that I teach others to be medical intuitives, it's a year-long program. It's very intensive. I've been asking the Golden Angel for years, can I transfer your frequency to other people? And 3 years ago, she finally said yes. And so in the program that I teach, I do a transference of her frequency into the students. It's very exciting. And then their gifts are activated and awakened as well.
That's amazing. I mean, I think there are a lot of programs out there where you can learn how to be a medical intuitive, but to actually have your instructor, your teacher, your guide to say, let me give you a piece of me. Like, it's almost like you're truly bringing people into a circle. You're not just teaching them something and letting them go. They're becoming part of a community and part of you.
Right. And a lot of practice. We form beautiful communities, and then every group is very small and intimate too. So we form very wonderful bonds through that.
Oh, that's lovely. Now, so what would your advice be for people who do have that fear, who are like, maybe like they feel something wants to communicate with them, but they have that, like there are those blocks. Is there anything from a medical intuitive aspect, or just from your own experience, like what they could do to kind of push through that, or maybe make it a little more safe?
Right. And those types of fears, generally 99.9% of the time, come from religious training, religious backgrounds. Even if somebody came into this world without religion, it's probably in their ancestral line, where I've seen many clients whose families were in Europe, and they were steeped in the fear of God. And if there was a famine and their crops were, they didn't have any rain or anything, their crops went dead, they would see it as a punishment from God. See, we come from that type of training, that type of background, that type of programming. And so whether we think that way now cognitively or not, it can be embedded in our DNA. And so we just do things to help lift that. And so what somebody might be able to do for themselves is to go inside, tune into that and feel if it's right for them or not. Is there some sort of block for me connecting with my guidance system? And they're going to hear a yes, probably. Otherwise, why have the fears? Because we know that the universe, the divine, is all loving. It's a friendly universe that we live in. So there really is truly nothing to be afraid of. The other thing might be that if someone is a very, very controlling person, where they're so tight and just want to maintain control of their self, their frequency, their energy body, then we'll have to dig a little bit deeper into that and why someone is uptight as that. And they might be able to work on that themselves if they, again, go inside and poke around a little bit. It's self-discovery. The spiritual journey is all self-discovery.
Yeah, and there's probably a lot of fear around that too. That might be what the real fear is like, I don't want to go inside and find out what's going on in there. So that's the thing to really work on, not the fear of the angel coming to be with you, but you being within your body. You're already there.
That's right. You're already there anyway. So,
but
yeah, that's a really good point, Kate, because a lot of people are afraid to go inside. Why? Because it hurts in there. Mm-hmm. That's where we hide. Things from when we were little that we haven't dealt with, they're all still sitting there unless we have dealt with them. So get some help, because we're meant to, the reason we're here is to flourish and to experience and to be in joy and thrive and have fun, experience, discover. All of, when we've always heard, become more like a child, become more childlike. Sometimes I believe that's the secret to life, and if we can heal all of those things deep within us, then we will be able to thrive in those ways and wake up with wonder every day.
I know a lot of the work you do, you really are getting at trauma points. So while somebody says, I just have this stiff neck, I've had it for a year, I don't know what to do about it, I've seen a chiropractor. And when you're looking at it, it's like, this isn't just your neck. Like there's something else going on there on a emotional and spiritual level. Do you find that that's almost usually the case?
It's 100% of the time.
100%. Okay. I was like, I don't want to like overstate this, but do you think maybe, 100%?
Right. Because our bodies are our consciousness and form. We are holistic beings, the body, the mind, the soul, the spirit. You can't separate them. It's not like we are these magnificent souls that came down into these clay bodies and we just drag it around. No, it is us in form. We hold, it's the reason for stiff necks. It's a reason for heart attacks. It's a reason for everything. Said you can't separate that. There's always an emotional component. That bladder that we worked on, the dysplasia of the bladder, to that and found the emotion surrounding it and helped lift that and heal it.
I really love the idea that you don't just work with one. Like many people will be like, okay, I work with this one council. I know you work with a council, but you also are working with the masters and you have angels. It's like you're sort of, it's like there's a flow of welcome there. So it's almost like you have a constant invitation of like, who else would like to join? And do you feel like do you create that for yourself, this welcome? I don't know. Is that a goofy way to put it?
No, I think it's a very, very valid question, because I think about that from time to time, because we all know of teachers out there and spiritual folks out there who always just work with these people, always work with these beings, right? And I asked him, it's like, how come I don't work with just one? And I never really got a firm answer, but when you just asked me that, it's like, probably because, not that other people aren't, but probably because I'm so extroverted that I like people. And so why would it be any different with my guides? So everybody comes in, everybody's welcome to the party. I love to entertain as a woman in my home, maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
That's
But I did start working with Jesus and Saint Germain and Archangel Michael back in the late 80s when I started doing Reiki. And then as I started doing medical intuition, So Wong Tzu came along, and he's a quantum acupuncturist and herbalist. Of course, he's etheric. He just popped in one day into a session and taught me how to do quantum acupuncture, which is actually just an etheric acupuncture that is very, very effective. And then Apostle Peter started coming into sessions, and then the Marys, and yeah, it's everybody comes. And then lately, the Andromedan Council of Seven comes in because I work with galactics.
so the for the galactics, I'm going to say I actually it was only really recently that I even knew anything about that. Oh God, it was like the first time I heard the term starseed, I was like, what is that? And then I was in a group, and somebody said to the other person, like, well, you're Pleiadian. And I was like, what does that mean? But I didn't want to ask because I was embarrassed. I didn't know. So I was looking up later, and I'm spelling it Palladian. Like, I didn't even know what they said. I was like, what is Palladian? It took me forever to figure this out. I was like, oh, but then I got really interested in it. And it's like a whole, I mean, it's almost like a whole new, well, it is a whole new world. Like it's like so many of us believe, like, of course there's something else out there. Of course there's something extra dimensional. It's not just here. There's more. And maybe I guess I always just thought like our brains can't do that. Like we're very, in this 3D, we've been given this equipment and we can't conceive of that. So it really blew my mind that it doesn't have to be someone coming down in a spaceship, that it's here. But then it makes so much sense that, if we're talking about, if we believe there are other dimensions that we're all layered together, why wouldn't we be able to connect with other dimensions?
Yeah, well, exactly. And the way that and that's really, really a good take on that. Thanks, Kate. But one thing that the guides say too is, if do we believe that we are pieces of God? Don't we feel like we are a wave in the ocean? And if we do, then are we not, and have we not been all things? We're one with the wave in the droplet in the ocean. We're one with the rock on the ground. But why not? Why can we not be part of the galactic and have a galactic heritage? Right?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I love learning about all of that is that there's there's so much compassion and empathy for us that, when you want to connect with something like that, it can sound kind of scary. It's like, what? So yeah, another dimension, another, like, and people think, well, we've been raised with like aliens. It sounds really scary. But what everything I've heard anybody who connects with them talk about is this love and compassion. And it really is, it's like no different from Jesus or, like you said, the ascended masters, people who've had earth lives.
Right. That's absolutely right. They're benevolent. They're bigger than benevolent. They're more than that. If we truly consider them family, that unconditional, non-judgmental love that comes from them brings you to tears. I've experienced it being in the presence of the Pleiadians. It's the most beautiful love anywhere. And I've not felt anything like that here on Earth. So yes. And that love is what brings the healing too, because love heals, period. Right? So that's why I work with them. And that's why others can learn to do that too.
And that's almost like the medium that medical intuitives work with. What you're channeling is love. You're using the energy of love to heal a body. And then I just think that it's a really beautiful experience. I've experienced it. And it's I think that I've heard somebody once, one of my friends, she had said something about like, oh, and this person, it was something where they'd be working with somebody who does energy work. She's like, and I felt uncomfortable with this. And I talked to another friend of mine, and she said, oh no, don't let someone into your energy like that. That's very dangerous to let someone into your energy. It was like such a blanket statement. It's like, well, I mean, what would you say to somebody who has those sort of fears of just overall, like, it's very dangerous to let you have your energy, they have their energy, you should not let them into yours? It's very fear-based.
Well, that's it right there. It's fear, and we no longer protect ourselves. That's a very, very old paradigm from doing healing work in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It's like, oh, protect yourself because you don't want to carry that around. Then you're going to give it to other people, and then you're going to get possessed by something, and you're not going to be able to get rid of it. No, the new paradigm now that has been a blanket thing for, and I'm so glad that the guides brought this into. If we think about this, if we are bright lights and these lights shine out all around us in every direction from us, how can anything penetrate that or even have a chance to penetrate it, right? So if anybody thinks that, oh, I might get, an entity attachment or something, if you're shining bright, that entity is going to look at you and run the other way. And that's if you even believe in entities. We don't do that anymore. We don't talk about them because they don't. We can bring anything into our, and we could talk for 3 hours about this one. We can bring anything into our existence, into our body, into our life that we want through our focus. So if somebody wants to focus on entities, guess what? You're going to attract it. We don't look at that. The guide says, stay in the light, stay in the light, stay in the light. And so we are the light and we beam the light. Well, there's no need for protection at all. Make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I have heard a shift on that with little less talk of not letting there are these bad entities and like you said, and needing to protect yourself. And it's more like setting up your filter, not so much your barrier, but like there are certain things I would like to allow in and so you're not like addressing what the other things are. It's like, this is what I'm inviting in. Well, I basically said nothing. So it's just understood, nothing else is welcome. If you're not, who is it? Somebody said, if you're not coming from love, then you're not welcome. So if you're coming from love, like like any guides that are coming in, it's like, if you're coming from love, then this is going to be a relationship. But if you're not coming from love, then this is not something I'm looking for. Not talking about safe or protection, just like not interested. Thanks anyway.
Yeah, sure.
But then you don't let fear in.
Exactly. Yep. Stay in the light.
So for the people that you work with, do you find you attract a lot of, obviously people who would be believing in this type of work and really interested in it, they are going to have like some spiritual development going on. They're going to have more of those interests, or unless they've never heard of this before and a friend said, hey, you've got to do this. Do you find that people come to you like looking to have you help them open up more, like not just like on a physical level, but like on like they feel like they're blocking like a gift that might be coming through, or they have questions like that?
Sure. Many people come to me for those very things. Excuse me. And we are able to open them up. But the guys always say that we don't believe in blocks. We come thinking, oh, I'm so blocked. I can't get to this. I'll never be able to do that. And only these people up here are able to channel and do healing. And it's like, no, we all can, because we all are love beings, right? So yeah, some people's gifts might be a little bit more pronounced in some areas, but yeah, that's very, very common that people want to open up to that. And by the way, we actually have a private community. It's called the Inner Sanctuary. If someone were to go to my website, on my homepage, it talks about the Inner Sanctuary. It's a private community. It's a monthly membership that they can join and learn all about that. There's a vast, vast library of 60 hours of classes just like that from group sessions that we've done together.
That's incredible. You've been doing this long enough that you've really created so much valuable content. And even just on your YouTube page, where, obviously this membership is going to have like infinitely more, but you can get a lot. You shared some things that you teach, it's not just promos and just things I'm thinking about. Like, you've actually taken time to try to help teach people who are, there are a lot of seekers who they're not ready to, or they might be ready for a membership, but they don't even know what it is yet. Like, they need somebody to explain things to them, and you do a really good job of that. And the one thing that I love that you do is you invite, it's like, this can be really serious stuff, but you make it fun. And I've heard you say, like, we need to bring more wonder to the seeking, but it can putting so much pressure on ourselves and making it so serious, and like, it's not life or death, but but almost feeling like time is running out. But it's like, why don't, instead of like trying to like push through and get to the finish line, like bring some wonder and childlike excitement to the process itself.
Absolutely. And it's the best, that's the best way to unlock any of those blockages that we have, right? Because what happens when you're vacuuming or in the shower or doing the dishes? Don't you get insights? Why? Because you're in a mindless state. You're not, might not be enjoy doing the dishes, but you're not worrying. You're just in this mindless place where things are able to pop in then. So I like when the guides first told me that to be more childlike, I started thinking about what did I do when I was little? And this would be a really good exercise for everybody to do. Think about on a rainy day or after the rain, what would you do? You'd take your little umbrella outside maybe and splash in the puddles and then walk on the dry pavement and look back and see your own footprints. I mean, see just things like that, that you're opening yourself back up to the wonder. I remember picking up leaves and just looking at the veins in the leaves with such wonder and curiosity. See, that's being childlike.
Yeah.
It's not so much pushing away our bad thoughts or our worries, because we don't want to push anything away that's already a piece of us. We want to gather parts of ourselves and love them. And in that love, then they're going to relax and release also. So see, it's a big, beautiful container of compassion and wonder and curiosity that I teach others to get to, because this is what the guides are saying is so needed right now. So we do it together.
What are how could you bring that to like when you want to connect to your connecting to your guidance system? Like there's so many ways to go about it, and I know that you teach many, but that bringing that kind of newness and the wonder of things, what are some ways that you can kind of bring that in to make it not so serious and scary, and I want to talk to my guides, but like to make that connection?
I think, well, first of all, I can only speak about how I did it, and I always just had a very intense desire. I would tell the guides. I mean, I didn't even know who they were up front in the very beginning. It's like, I don't know who you are, but I want this. I want this. If you said I can do what you did, I want ascension. I want mastery. I want to talk to you. And I've got my teeth into that and I wouldn't let go. And so desire is a huge part of it. Not everything came right away. I wanted to do what I'm doing now back in the early 90s. No, like around 2000. And I tried, and it just wasn't the right timing. So timing has, I don't want to put that into people's heads, because that was something pretty big that I tried to do, but no one's withholding anything from you is the biggest message. No one's withholding. You don't have any blocks. Get inside yourself, love yourself, ask, 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 and ask more and more and more and more. And another thing is, I always said, take me to the next level, whatever that looks like for me. And I just, like I said, in the beginning, I didn't know who I was talking to. And now we have this huge entourage that I know is listening and loving and helping, not just for me, for everybody.
Well, Deb, thank you so much. I really hope that anybody listening to this who's feeling the least bit of fear, and I don't think that's so uncommon, to just get into the energy of this, of all of that beautiful love-based desire to help us that's out there. And why would we be afraid of that? This was just the perfect way to kind of invite that in. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd love it if you could end this, leave us with just anything you might want to say about inviting the magic in and finding your own magic, anything you might want to share about that.
Sure. There's a technique that they've been putting in my head this whole time we're talking here, and I'll do it really quickly for everybody. And it's called the AAL technique, and that stands for acknowledgement, acceptance, and love. These are the gifts that we give to ourselves. They're going to cause the greatest healing. And it's free. It's a free tool that anybody can do to come out, break out of those fears, break out of any blockages you think you might have, and gain so much more in self-love and connection. Say that I have a fear and my heart is heavy. So what I tell myself with my guidance system, because I trust they're always there, my angels, say, acknowledge, I see you. I get it. Anybody who's been through what you've been through would feel the same way. Acceptance. We're here with you. We get it. We've got this. And it's all okay. Love. You're safe here. What occurred in the past doesn't equal the present nor the future. And there's safety here. And it's safe to just breathe. It's safe to be. It's safe to love and be loved. And it's safe to let go. That's the AAL technique. I get chills every time I do it.
I got chills too. Thank you so much.